Welcome to our presentation today in Chapter 11, Attitudes and Influencing Attitudes. Today, our Group 4, will be presenting this chapter. And as you can see, our group include 8 people as shown in these slides. And today, we're going to through 6 key learning objectives from the definition of attitudes toward its usage, also its importance. So we'll come right to the learning objective 1. Into the first learning objective, now we're going to find out about the definition of attitude along with its role in consumer behavior. So as you can see here, attitude are defined as the way people think, feels, and acts toward aspects of his or her environment. So personally, for me, for example, Louis Vuitton is a representative for a prestigious brand. So people who choose to buy these products tend to have high income and choose to promote their nobility image in their appearance. But on the other hand, we have Coca-Cola, which is, for me, representative for the youth. So it is full of enthusiasm and positive energy. So now we'll find out components that comprising people attitude toward a brand. So as you can see here, there are 3 components that make up people attitude toward one thing, including affective components, cognitive, and behavioral. So now we are going to find out more about it in the first part about cognitive components. As you can see, cognitive components are defined and consist of consumers' beliefs about an object, and it has a variety of features. The first one, beliefs can be about emotional benefits of owning or using a product, and many beliefs about attributes are evaluated in nature. Let me take an example. For me, like for marketers, they will try to promote the benefits rather than a feature of a product. For example, right here we have marketers trying to promote the no starch features, which indicates that there's sodium free in this product, and so good for your health. And because of people's beliefs, about products that have been done to live better, so they have tendency to choose the product. So that's the end of my presentation. Moving on, Winan will tell you more about the multi-attitude attribute models.
Thank you. And now let me talk about the measurement of cognitive components in consumer attitudes, called the multi-attribute model. The simplest formula for this model is a consumer attitude toward a particular brand B, denoted as AB, is equal to the sum of their beliefs about the brand B's performance on attribute I. However, because the consumer may place varying degrees of importance on various attributes, we must include the importance weight in the formula. In addition, the consumer ideal level of performance on the attribute is also relatively important, so we also need to consider that consumers prefer products that have performance close to their ideal level. Therefore, the closer to the zero an attitude index is calculated, the better. To understand the formula more easily, I would like to take an example from the textbook. As you can see from the screen, this data from a group of consumers on a set of beliefs about Diet Coke, and the important weights represents the relative relevance of the 4 soft link features so that the total adds up to 100 points. To calculate consumer attitudes toward Diet Coke, we take 10 times absolute value of 3 minus 4, plus 30 times the absolute value of 2 minus 6, plus 20 times the absolute value of 3 minus 5, plus 40 times the absolute value of 1 minus 1, equal 170. Aside from the cognitive factors, affective components play a crucial influence on consumer attitudes. The feelings or emotional reaction to an objective are the effective components of an attitude. Marketers are increasingly focusing on the emotional side of attitudes to provide a more complete picture. As a result, marketers frequently distinguish between utilitarian or functional benefits and attitudes and hedonic or emotional advantages attitude. They are starting to examine both form and function in the product design and are putting a lot of emphasis on the aesthetic aspects of the design. Apart from product quality, design, packaging, and branding all play an important influence in establishing consumers' attitude. For example, although Skechers sneakers are deemed comfy and excellent quality for jogging or hiking, many consumers still choose Nike due to its aesthetic aspect. Accent is one method by assessing the emotional component of an attitude. Now let's move to the next part with
Hello, teacher. My name is Mạnh Hiếu. So now I will continue to talk about learning object 2 of chapter 11. Intention is a behavioral component of customer attitudes. Behavioral component of attitude is associated with the impact of the various condition or situation that leads to the person behavior based on a cognitive and affective components. Two research models demonstrate the relationship between the intention to purchase and actual purchase and consumption. The theory of reasoned action explains purchasing behavior as a direct result of intention influenced by the attitude toward the purchase and by the subjective. And the theory of trying to consume explain actual consumption behavior of a purchaser. It is provide insight into the establishment and the maintenance of a long-term relationship with a customer. And the next part is about the brand consistency. It can be difficult to achieve, so it is important to focus on it from the start. Building a profitable, sustainable business means making small adjustments throughout your life. And if the entire company acts consistently, it has a better chance of achieving your ideas and consistent results. Your brand defines you and the entire company, which is your consistency is important in business, brand, and marketing. Solid branding sets your companies apart from the competition. If you study the action of the powerful brands around the world, you will find that they are very consistent in strategy and implementation. The truth is that consistency is crucial when it's come to the visual brand, and consistency, changing the colors, image, and the font can make your brand appear unprofessional or even implausible. If you do not consistently keep the promise that a brand make, the customer loyal can be greatly reduced. And I think object 3 will be represent.
Hello everyone, my name is Tauheen and I am going to talk about attitude change strategies. There are four aspects to consider when attempting to change cognitive components. The first one is to change beliefs. Here, people shift how consumers perceive brands' performance on one or more attributes. To illustrate, Starbucks was once perceived as the third place, and now it has joined the high quality section. Secondly, it is the shift importance. This is where marketers persuade consumers. It is the aspects that brands are strong in that are important. Apple has applied this when promoting the purchase of other products, saying that they will synchronize and can enjoy better protection. And a third way is to add beliefs in the belief structure of consumers. And finally, to alternate consumers' perception of an ideal product. Next, marketers would also consider changing the affective component. One way to do so is to use classical conditioning, which is to pair the brand with a favored stimuli. Adapting to this, Batman has paid meticulous attention to eye-catching visuals, which are actually rewarding because they are so unique and so Batman. Another way is to affect toward the advertisement or the website. Generally, consumers liking the advertisement or the website is more likely to like the brand itself. Therefore, brands like Hairburst invest in advertisement and website integrating celebrities heavily to stimulate affection to their brand. And the final way is mere exposure. The name tells it. A brand is presented so many times. This is applied to low involvement products to remind purchase. And behavioral component is the last aspect that marketers would consider altering. Sometimes behavioral comes first, even sooner than cognition or affect. However, it can be the behavior that leads to these two aspects. Let's recall the time that you wander on the road, finding a food stall and decide to enter one without prior knowledge, but with the motivation to try something new and who knows, it might be good. Do you find this familiar? Because this is based on operant conditioning. Therefore, brands promote trial. We hours up glasses up adapt this by providing virtual try-on service that allows consumer to find the perfect glasses shape. And next thing, we'll talk about the individual and situational characteristics that influence attitude change. Thank you for your listening.
I'm Ngọc from Group 4. So now I will continue to analyze the individual and situational characteristics that influence attitude change. So attitude change is determined by individual and situational factors as well as marketing activities. So first, individual factors include gender, need for cognition, consumer knowledge, anxiety, and regulatory status, whereas situational factors include program context, level of viewer distraction, and buying occasion. Moving to the most important theory of this learning outcome is the elaboration likelihood model. It is a theory about attitudes or form and change under varying conditions of high and low involvement. In terms of high involvement, it is results in the central roads to attitude change in which consumer intentionally and consciously absorb those message and aspects that they believe that are significant to a meaningful and logical evaluation of the brand, whereas low involvement results in a peripheral routes to attitude change in which consumer form perception of the brand based on exposure to readily available cues in the message, regardless their relevance to the brand or decision. And here is the ELM model, as you can see on the screen. The next section is the cue relevance and competitive situation. When compared to attitudes formed by the peripheral route, attitudes formed through the central route tend to be stronger, more resistant to the counter persuasion attempts, more accessible from memory, and more predictive of behavior. Even when there is a high level of involvement, the competitive environment can operate to heighten the role of peripheral route. Peripheral cues. In the last part of the learning outcome number 4 is consumer resistance to persuasion. This section indicates that consumers are often skeptical and resist persuasion. Also, they are frequently infer an advertiser's intent and respond unlike of that presumed selling intent. And the last one is that the strongly held attitudes are harder to change than the weakly held attitudes. And that is the end of my part. The following section is communication characteristics that influence attitudes, formation, and change that will be presented by my friend Lung.
Hello, teacher. My name is Long, and after my friend Twin has talked about individual and situational characteristics that influences attitude change, I will continue that with learning objective 5 about communication characteristics that influences attitude formation and change. So let's us introduce about the source characteristic. It is the source of a communication represents who delivers the message. It can include people like celebrities, animated sport characteristics from famous TV series like Mr. Peanut, and organizations like companies or third-party endorsement. And source characteristics consist the 3 different source credibilities, celebrity source, and sponsorship. So let us move into the first one about source credibility. It includes trustworthiness and expertise, and when it comes to the soft credibilities, we need to mention about testimonial advertisement when a person, typically members of the target market, recounts his or her successful use of the product, service, or idea. For example, in the advertisement of the Proactive Plus, they use the consumer who already use their product and gain successful results to convey about the desired function of their product. Independent third-party endorsement is also important, as many brands like Crest, their remarkable success is greatly attributed by the American Dental Association's ADA endorsements. Furthermore, soft credibilities can improve persuasion in various situations, and cultural differences can play a role. For instance, Japanese consumers are more involved by expert sources than American ones because they are more risk-averse and more likely to defer to the authority. And the next part is celebrity source. It could say that celebrity sources are effective for a variety of reasons like attention, attitude toward the art, trustworthiness, expertise, and so on. And when it comes to using a celebrity endorsement, effective attitude formation and change can result when the three components, target audience, the image of the endorser, and the image of the product are marked. For example, Taylor Swift showed up her creative style by using like sweater dress and leg up highs, and the brand cast want to promote the clothing line similar to that. Also, there are many audience who portray such style like the idol. In this case, we can see a strong link between the celebrity, the clothing line, and the target audience. So using celebrity source is very effective. And that is also the end of my presentation. And the next part is of my friend Tin, who will show you more about the sponsorship and another characteristic.
So thank Long for introducing me, and now I will take the last part. So the sponsors, my name is anyway. So the sponsorship or the financial or in kind of support activities that the business often the sponsor an events, trade shows, groups, or the charity causes, and increase the competitive advantage. And then we'll talk about the appeal characteristics in the marketing, mostly in advertising. So for the fears abuse, so fear abuse focus on the negative outcome that can happen because of the action and the inaction. So the advertiser use fear appeals to promote an immediately behavior change, such as eating healthier or like not smoking. So I put here an example of like the horror movies, because they are horror movies, so they pronounce the fears appeals in their advertising. And using humor at an expenses of one group may lead to the resentment. So the senior citizens may present the product that portray them as a cruel, while women refuse to portray a product that portray them as overbearing, and humorous as work best with established and the common portray products such as cell phone, fast food, alcohol beverage, and like I put in here sample for like very funny at that holiday in Vietnam advertising. And now soon we'll take the next part. Thank you.
Thank you, Wilmington, for having introducing about the first part of the role of measure source, appeals, and structures on attitudes. Now I will continue to talk about the comparative ads. Comparative ads directly compares the features or benefits between two or more brands, and comparative ads are often more effective than non-comparative ads in generating attention, message, and brand awareness. Better message processing, favorable sponsor brand attitudes, and increased purchase intentions and behaviors. You can see the examples of Burger King and McDonald's between the size of the hamburgers and the meat inside. And next is emotional appeals. Emotional appeals or feeling ads are being used with increasing frequency. Emotional ads are designed primarily to elicit a positive, effective response rather than to provide information or arguments. Emotional asset is those that arouse feelings of warmth, trigger psychological reaction. You can see the example of McDonald's for the happiness box. When you buy a Happy Meal in McDonald's, you can have a toy like Doraemon for kids or some funny things. And emotional advertisements may enhance persuasion by increasing attention and processing of the ad and therefore ad recall. So there is liking of the ad, product liking through classical conditioning, product liking through high involvement processes. And next is value expressive versus utilitarian appeals. Value expressive appeals attempt to build a personality for the product or create an image of the product user. And value expressive appeals attempt to build a personality for the product or create an image of the product user. You can see for the guidance, the users tend to wait to have the most perfect one to drink. And one-sided versus two-sided messages. In advertisement and sales presentations, marketers generally present only the benefits of the product without mentioning any negative characteristics it may possess on any advantages a competitor may have. These are one-sided messages because only one point of view is expressed. So the idea of two-sided message presenting both good and bad bonds is counterintuitive, and most marketers are reluctant to try such an approach. You can see the example of R&B present two-sided messages tell you that your teeth won't be 3 times healthier if there will be a lot of healthier with less flack due to micro-texture crystals. And goal framing is where the message stresses either the positive consequences of performing an act or the negative consequences of not performing the act. And now, my friend Lung will talk about the next part. Thank you for
Thanks to Sung about her presentation of one-sided versus two-sided message. Now I'm going to present the positive versus negative aspect framing of the message structure characteristics. So as you can see here, the positive versus negative framing has two sides. The first one is the message framing, which refers to the presenting one or two equivalent value outcomes, either in positive or in negative terms. The second one is the goal framing, is where the message stresses either the positive consequences of performing an act or the negative of not performing it. So besides the positive versus negative framing, we have the aspect of nonverbal components. We are kind of similar to this aspect because nonverbal components is the aspects of the act, which include, for example, the pictures, the storyism, or even the music, which are affect attitudes. Moving on, we will find out about market segmentation and product development strategies based on attitudes. So in order to benefit the most from attitudes, we have to make market segmentation one of the most important tasks in a marketer's life. So when coming to market segmentation, we have the terms of benefit segmentation, which is segmenting consumers on the basis of their most important attributes. Also, to define benefit segments, marketers need to know the importance that consumers attach to various product or just service feature. Now we'll find out more about the product development. The product development includes 3 steps. The first one is the marketers have to somehow find out about the ideal levels of performance, which is the other word for demand of the consumers, in order to decide developing a new product or reformulating an existing one. Coming to the next step, marketers will try to create a product concept that closely match with the ideal profile. And also, when things have been settled, we come to the last step of translating the concept into an actual product. And along with these three steps, the marketers have to take evaluations, feelings, and beliefs of consumers or purchasers into account in order to make up the most appropriate product in order to maximize profit. So that's the end of our presentation in chapter 11 of our group 4. Thank you for listening.